It was a chilly night. Van was sitting alone on the bench at the bus stop. Frustration and sadness clouded her thoughts as it was the worst day of her life today. Just because she was 10 minutes late, her boss shouted at her badly, insulted her in front of everyone, and on top of that, he fired her. Her thoughts were filled with sadness, making it impossible for her to come up with a solution. It's not like she is all alone and nobody is with her to pay her college fees and all expenses. Her father may have died when she was 12. She has her mother to take care of her, but she didn't want it to worry her mother because she has already went through so much being a single mother and raising her alone. So Van wanted to be independent. That's why she was working part-time for her living, college fees and all. But now her boss fired her because she reached late. It was not like the first time she reached late, it was almost the third time. That's why her boss got furious and fired her. But what can she even do because of the classes she gets late? She was not at mistake too. Now she was in deep thoughts how she is gonna pay her college fees. She has no courage to ask her mom to pay because she's already going through so much. The rain started pouring down heavily as Van sat alone on the bench at the bus stop. The buses were delayed and everyone had already left, leaving her alone. Chilly wind sent shivers down her spine as she hugged her knees close to her chest. Just when Van thought the night couldn't get any worse, the roaring sound of a car caught her attention, which approached in the distance. She looked up and squinted through the raindrops to see none other than Jungkook. Her high school enemy. Coincidentally, he is in the same college as her. They might be enemies at school, but they were not always cruel to each other. Unbuckling the seatbelt, he came out of the car and approached Ryan. Hey, what are you doing out here all alone? He asked hesitantly, his voice warm and friendly. Ryan shrugged, feeling a bit embarrassed. Just waiting for the bus, she replied. He smiled at her and she felt her heart skip a beat. Well, if you want, I can give you a ride home. It's getting pretty late. Van hesitated for a moment. Her pride wanted to refuse him the satisfaction of helping her. But she knew she didn't have any option. Reluctantly, she nodded and got into his car. She felt a rush of excitement and nervousness too, as she had never been alone with him before, and she couldn't help but wonder if this was a sign that he might be interested in her too. As they rode through the rain-soaked streets, looking outside the window, Van recalled the day they had first become enemies back in the freshman year. They had both been running late and bumped into each other at the hallway intersection, causing a scene as books scattered everywhere. Instead of helping one another up, they exchanged sharp words and glares, which marked the beginning of their rocky relationship. Every encounter from that day forward was filled with bickering, such as Jungkook always taking Van's coveted spot near the window during science class, or Van loudly tapping her pen whenever Jungkook tried to concentrate during study periods. A slight smile formed on the corner of Van's lips just when she recalled her first encounter with him. With a soft, light smile on her face, she shifted her gaze from window to Jungkook, who was driving with full concentration, looking straight. She gazed him intensely, observing his every features and curves. Like this, she unknowingly started admiring him. Just when Jungkook felt Van's gaze towards him, he slightly shifted his gaze towards her, only to find her looking at him fondly. Their eyes locked for a moment. Van kept staring at him with soft smile. She was not realizing what she was doing. Jungkook felt flattered, so he shifted back his gaze on the road. As for Van, she is still admiring him. Shamelessly, she found herself becoming more aware of Jungkook's presence. The warmth radiating from his jacket, which he offered her earlier when she was going to get into his car, was comforting her on this cold night. and she couldn't help but feel a spark of something she never thought possible between them. Jungkook felt it too, but didn't dare to show it. He focused on their destination, but her intense gaze was something that was distracting him badly. From the corner of his eyes, he saw that she was still checking him out. He couldn't hold himself anymore and stopped the car aside. Vine came out of her staring session. She cursed herself when she realized what she was doing till now. I hope Jungkook didn't notice me checking him out. So embarrassing, she mumbled to herself in mind. But then just she suddenly confusingly looked outside. It was not her destination. Then why did he stop the car? Before she could ask something, Jungkook spoke up. Don't do this, babe. I am too weak to have control over myself when it comes to you, he said while gazing her intensely. Van furrowed her brows, trying to process his words, but he didn't give her any chance for that, as he held her face in his palms and glanced her lips intensely for some time, then smashed his lips with hers. Her eyes widened with a shock because of his sudden torture on her soft lips. But she was not struggling or trying to push him for once. She was feeling comfortable. He softly kissed her cheeks with his thumb while kissing. She clutched his grey shirt tightly in her tiny fist and let him do what he wanted. Later she too gave in and kissed him back with the same passion. He pulled back after some time when he felt her going out of breath. Both were heavily panting and taking deep breaths to normalize themselves. Now stop staring at me with those eyes and let me focus on the road if you want to reach your apartment. As if you kept distracting me with those stares of yours, I might end up doing worse things to you here in this car. Because it's hard to control myself now, Jungkook whispered while brushing his thumb gently over Vian's lips. Being all flustered, Vian couldn't think of anything. She just nodded like an obedient cat. He smirked, knowing his effect on her. Pulling out himself back, he started the engine and drove off. Van was still processing what happened just now. Him calling her babe and then kissing her passionately was not something that she expected from Jungkook. Because they were enemies, deep down Van knew that she had strong feelings for him, but she didn't had any idea that he too felt the same for her. She was quite happy to know that she wanted to scream badly with excitement, but she had to hold herself and hide her amused face. She herself didn't know why she was glad. Was it because Jungkook gave her right or because he kissed her? She was just too glad at the moment. Who would say that before sometimes she was on the edge of crying because of getting fired brutally by her boss? The silence between them was a bit awkward at first, but eventually Jungkook broke the ice. So why were you sad? He asked while looking straight on the road. Anu, I was not sad. Van said while trying to hide the truth. Jungkook glanced her before saying, Oh please Van, if you don't know how to lie then don't, because I clearly saw sadness all over your face when I approached you earlier at the bus stop. Van sighed in defeat. I got fired by my boss today. So what? It's not a big deal, man, Jungkook said while shrugging his shoulders. It may not be a big deal for rich persons like you, but it was important to me, Van said while looking outside the window. Ah, Vine, I didn't mean it in that way. I mean to say that it was just a part-time job and you can easily get part-time job anywhere with your abilities. He explained, making gestures with his hand while focusing on road. On hearing Jungkook, Van turned her gaze to him before saying, You're right though, Jungkook, but what if they didn't pay me enough? Yeah, Van, how can you even say this before trying? Just try getting job at other places. What if faith has something good for you? Jungkook replied, focusing on road. Van thought for a moment as whatever Jungkook said made sense in each and every way. She realized that she was being sad because of everything unnecessarily. She felt so stupid of herself for overthinking before even trying to getting another job. Jungkook didn't say anything further as he thought that Van has understood his poe. Van again admiringly glanced Jungkook. Do you have any idea that you have just lightened up my burden? Why are you being so good to me today? Are you acting of being good or are you really good? Suddenly she realized that she was again staring him. She quickly shifted her gaze outside the window, thinking of the possibility that he might end up doing the things to her again which he did earlier. As the night grew darker, the tension between them continued to dissipate. By the time Jungkook pulled up in front of her house, Van found herself reluctant to leave. She unbuckled the seatbelt. "Thanks for tonight," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Will not he say anything about the kiss?" she mumbled to herself in mind. While getting out of the car, Jungkook turned to her, his smile warm and genuine. "Anytime, Van. Take care." Walking towards her front door, Van couldn't help but replay the events of the night in her mind. Who would have thought that a late night ride with her school enemy would lead to such an unexpected connection? Jungkook was still there. He was fighting with his thoughts. He never felt this miserable. For this moment, he just wanted to capture her in his arms and never let her go. He sighed, his grip on the steering wheel tightening momentarily. He couldn't hold himself anymore. He had to face her now. Unbuckling the seatbelt, he gets out of the car. When he called her in a loud voice, while taking a long steps towards her. Van stopped on her way as soon as she heard him and turned around looking at him while coming towards her. As soon as he approached her, he smashed his lips on hers again, this time more passionately. Van was surprised at first, but again she too gave in and kissed him back with same passion. Then, after a while, pulling back himself, he connected his forehead with hers while cupping her cheeks. "I can't hold back my feelings anymore, Van. I think I have fallen for you so badly," Jungkook said, breaking the silence. "I think so too, Jungkook," she replied with a soft smile. Then they both giggled together at the fact that till yesterday they were enemies and today they turned into lovers. "Jungkook," Van called him softly. He replied shortly while caressing her cheeks. "You kissed me too fiercely just now," she said with a pout. "I'm sorry, babe. I told you already it gets too hard to control myself when it comes to you. Was I too rough?" he asked while caressing her lips with his thumb. "Yup. Now kiss me again," gently and passionately. A smile formed at the corner of Jungkook's lips as soon as he heard Van. "As you say, my girl." Saying this, Jungkook placed his lips on Van's. This time he gently kissed her. She too smiled before kissing him back. After breaking the kiss, Jungkook held Van's hand in his, looking in her eyes. "I love you, babe," he gently confessed. "I love you too, Cook. Let's be together from now on," Van replied, smiling brightly. Jungkook smiled back and then embraced her in his arms while caressing her hairs.